What's up, people? It's your boy Jew coming at you guys with another edition of What's the Word, Dirty Bird. We do this every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. But I appreciate you guys joining me today. We're going to talk a little bit about Coach Raheem Morris. I believe right now it's like the owners' meetings and things of that nature, and the competition committee are all meeting. The head coaches and things of that nature are all meeting, and it's been some interesting things coming out, some things that Raheem Morris have stated about the vision that he has for this Atlanta Falcons team. So I definitely want to tackle that in today's episode of What's the Word, Dirty Bird. I'm gonna jump into the chat really quick and say what's up to you guys who's joining me on this beautiful Tuesday. So first off, what's up to Prince Kale 89? You always are like the first one in here, man. So I appreciate you always jumping in prior to the show starting off, man. You always get us off on the right foot. So I appreciate you joining me. I hope you're having a great week so far. YMOF Jamal, what's going on, man? I appreciate you joining me as well. Xavier Littman, what's happening, man? I appreciate you joining me with the red and black in the chat. And shouts out to my brother Big Ant. I appreciate you joining me. Y'all definitely go over to AFN and hit that like, hit that subscribe button. That's one of my bros over there at AFN, so I appreciate it. And Maurice Martin says, good morning. What's going on? Good morning, man. I appreciate you joining me as well. So everybody so far in the chat, if you guys can just hit that like button for your boy. Most of you guys, I know you already subscribed, but if you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We're currently on the road to 3,000 subscribers and beyond. But I want this video to get out to as many Atlanta Falcons fans, NFL fans, football fans. Definitely continue to share out my content, but I do appreciate each and every one of you guys for continuing to support the channel, always joining me, whether you're viewing my videos or whether you're just joining me on my live shows. I appreciate you guys, but I hope you guys are having a great week so far. Like I said, there's been some interesting news going on, some NFL rule changes. I made a video about the drop tackle being banned from the NFL, gave my thoughts on that. So if you guys want to hear my thoughts on that, definitely go check out my last video, maybe after the show, this live show. And also today has been some more news coming out talking about the kickoff, the new rules for kickoff and things of that nature, where they're going more to the similar to what the XFL uses as far as the way that they do their kickoffs and things of that nature. So I'll probably do a short video later touching on that as well. But I do want to go ahead and jump into um, the main topic of today's show, because you guys know I only like to be on for no more than like an hour 30 minutes. I don't want to hold you guys. I know you guys are busy just like I'm busy. So let's jump right into the first topic, and the main topic of this show, which is my thoughts on Raheem Morris's vision for the Atlanta Falcons. And I don't know if you guys follow, if you're on Twitter, if you follow Tori McElhaney, but she does have some very good takes. I believe she's like a beat writer for the Atlanta Falcons or a journalist for the Atlanta Falcons. But I'm definitely a huge fan of hers, and she's a great follow on Twitter. And she said some interesting things today about Coach Morris and what he stated at like the owners' meetings and things of that nature. So I kind of want to touch on a couple key points that she made. And she had like 3 bullet points of what she stated about Raheem Morris, and I thought they were very, very interesting. So the first one that she tweeted was Raheem Morris stated that we would like to add more young guys in the secondary. So you guys know that last night, my bros, the 2/3 of the heavy hitters, Mad Mike and K Styles, they talked about AJ Terrell last night and whether the Falcons should pay AJ Terrell or will they allow AJ Terrell to test free agency in the offseason. And I really thought that this first, this first thing that she tweeted out, she had 3 different tweets, or one tweet, but 3 different topics or sub titles that what she took from what Raheem Morris said. And I like to kind of read through between the lines when coaches state things or when owners state things. So what I took from that, when she says we would like to add more young guys in the secondary as one of the main points for this Atlanta Falcons moving forward for the rest of the offseason, heading into the draft, is I really think that the Falcons are going to take a couple of corners in the draft. I don't know if it's going to be in the first round, but I definitely think that AJ Terrell is one of those guys that I think he's kind of playing for his job in Atlanta this season. Whether he gets a new contract, and they stated that last night. Mad Mike and K Styles kind of gave their take on what the Atlanta Falcons are going to do with AJ Terrell. You guys know where I stand personally. I would like to see AJ Terrell stay in Atlanta. He's from the Georgia area. He is a really good player, but I do believe that he's going to have to step up and he's going to have to make plays when plays are presented to him. He is one of those guys, like I said, it's a really good cover corner, but the best corners in the league not only are great at coverage, but they also take the ball away. They intercept the ball. They change games by giving their offense more opportunities by them either intercepting the ball like a Deion Sanders and taking it back for a touchdown themselves, or they make plays as far as they intercept the ball and they put the offense back on a short field or put the ball back in the offense hands. So I really think based off of what Tori McElhaney shared in the tweet with that first little subtopic, she basically stated that they're going to add, or Raheem Morris stated that they're going to add more young talent in the secondary. I expect the Falcons to draft either in the first or second round, or in the first 3 rounds. I expect them to draft a corner. So that definitely is one of the things that I've been looking at currently as I've been doing my breakdowns on different players as far as draft prospects. I have been looking at the cornerbacks because I know that the Falcons are going to have to add depth at that position. So I thought that was very interesting. And I think that's interesting for AJ Terrell because at this point, he could be possibly being replaced if he doesn't step up and they decide, how we draft is going to tell me everything about where AJ Terrell stands with this Atlanta Falcons team. If they take a corner with with that first round pick at 8, that tells me that they're looking to possibly move on from AJ Terrell unless he just balls out. The second thing that she talked about that Raheem Morris stated in her tweet was building up pass rush. And he stated that there's never going to be a day when that's not a priority for the Atlanta Falcons, basically, as far as building in the trenches, which I thought was huge because you guys know that I'm big on building in the trenches. I'm big on being able to affect the quarterback. And I really feel like you build your team from front to back. And you've heard me say this numerous times. I feel like on defense, you have to be able to stop the run. And that'll help the back end. If you can get home, the corners don't have to cover as long. And we know in today's NFL, to me, it's easier to rush the passer than it is to lock up wide receivers. Based off of the rules where you can't touch anybody past 5 yards down the field, it's really, really tough at the catch point for cornerbacks and safeties and things of that nature. The way that the rules are nowadays, where you can't blow wide receivers and tight ends and things of that nature up if they come across the middle because you can't hit them, but in certain areas, certain targets, you can't really be physical at the catch point. So it makes it really, really hard and makes it really, really tough to play the defensive back position in today's game. I feel like it's easier to go out there and build in the trenches and kind of affect the passer, even if you don't sack the quarterback, but you move him off his spot, you tip the ball, you create havoc, you hit him after he's thrown the ball. If you're in like one step of him without getting any roughing the passers and things of that nature, I really feel like that's the way to kind of build your defense. Personally, that's how I would build the defense, is build in the trenches up front. And then in the secondary, you want to have really good secondary players as well. But I don't think you need, all pro cornerbacks and, in the secondary to necessarily win a Super Bowl. We've seen teams like the Philadelphia Eagles where they've always had a good front, but they secondary, as far as their corners, haven't been the best at times. And they were still able to win, a Super Bowl. We've seen teams in the New York Giants when they had that lethal pass rush up front with guys like Michael Strahan and O.C. Umenyiora and Justin Tuck. When they had that group of a crop of defensive linemen, you can't really name anybody really in their secondary. I can name a couple guys that they had in the secondary, but that's just because I love the game of football. But they really didn't have no big name corners. They had, guys that were just average, but they didn't give the quarterback enough time to see down the field and scan the field to find that third or fourth read By the time they, went one Mississippi, two Mississippi, three, they was in the backfield making a tackle, rushing the quarterback, making him leave the pocket. And I really feel like with this Atlanta Falcons team, based off of what Raheem Morris is stating, I really feel like this team is going to look a lot similar to the 2016 Atlanta Falcons. As crazy as that sounds, we know that Raheem Morris was here with Dan Quinn. He was on Dan Quinn's coaching staff the year that we went to the Super Bowl. And I really feel like, Raheem Morris, he's doing the right thing personally to me, and the way that they're looking to build the team so far. I think that he's done a good job, both him and Terry Fontenot, because what he's basically doing is taking the pieces that this Falcons team has already had, instead of demolishing the whole team, demolishing this whole roster and starting from ground zero again. He's basically just building upon what Arthur Smith and what Dave Ragone and Terry Fontenot, what those guys already built as far as the players that they drafted. And if you look at this Atlanta Falcons team, the reason I say that it's similar to the 2016 Falcons is majority of our talent and the guys that are making the most money is on the offensive side of the ball. If you look at this team, you just paid Kirk Cousins, you paid Chris Lindstrom, you paid Jake Matthews, you paid Caleb McGarry. Then you went out in the last three drafts and drafted with the first round picks all offensive players. You drafted Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and then last year Bijan Robinson. So if you look at the structure of this Atlanta Falcons team, it reminds me similar to that 2016 team, based off of the fact that on the offensive side, you've got a lot of talent. And I really feel like this team is going to be able to put up a lot of points. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I feel like this team is about to get younger. As he talked about, building in the trenches, I really feel like they're going to go out and draft edge rushers. They're going to go out and draft corners. And that's similar to what we did in 2016. We had a few veteran guys like Jonathan Babineau, and then we had a young Grady Jarrett that was drafted, which was in his second year. You had guys like True Font that was really young. You had Robert Alford, who was still really young. All of these guys were on their rookie contracts at that time. You had Deion Jones and Devondre Campbell. All of those guys were rookies at that time. So I really feel like this team is going to be similar to that 2016 team, where the formula is going to be put up points, put pressure on the other team to keep up with you offensively, and then allow your young defense, or allow your defense to pin their ears back and get after the quarterback, make teams one-dimensional, where they look up, they down 14-0 in the first quarter or the first half, and they have to kind of catch up to what you're doing to try to keep pace. So I really feel like, the strategy that we're using so far, as Raheem Morris's vision for this Atlanta Falcons team, I really feel like he has the right vision. And if you look at the guys that he's brought in, they brought in like 6 different coaches that coach quarterbacks and that know offense. He brought in, a young Zach Robinson, who's a former collegiate quarterback, but he's also a guy that worked with Sean McVay. So he's an innovative offensive mind. And then Raheem Morris has actually picked up some gems as well, working around a lot of these guys, where he even knows both sides of the ball now. So I really feel like that the Falcons are doing the right thing in this instance, because this team is kind of already together. I really feel like this Atlanta Falcons team is not far off from being a contender to contend for a Super Bowl, to be honest, because the NFC right now is the weaker conference. There's not a ton of great teams in the NFC. A lot of teams have gotten weakened due to free agency, like the Dallas Cowboys. They lost a lot of key pieces and lost a lot of depth. Outside of the Cowboys, the Eagles, the 49ers, it's not really, any team that I'm looking at that I feel like this Atlanta Falcons team can't really compete with. Like our team, if we would have had a quarterback last year, a veteran quarterback like a Kirk Cousins, or even a Matt Ryan at his old age, I really feel like this Falcons team last year would have been in the playoffs. We just didn't finish games and things of that nature at the end of games. So I definitely think that the way that Raheem Morris is looking to build this team, I think that he has the right idea. And then the last thing that he stated and then I'll jump back into the chat because I know I've been ranting a little bit. Is Torrey McElhaney took down our third quarterback is going, or we're going to look for a third quarterback to go along with Kirk Cousins and Taylor Heineke. So that tells me that they're going to draft a quarterback. I really think in this draft, it may not be early in the draft, but it's going to be a similar to what we did with Desmond Ritter the year they drafted him. We know that Kirk Cousins is the franchise quarterback, so he's not going anywhere barring injury, knock on wood. But I think that we're going to see the Falcons possibly take a quarterback in the second or third or fourth round. So a Spencer Rattler would be a guy that I think is on the Falcons' radar. Um, a Michael Penix Jr., I think he's on the table depending if he drops and slots in the draft, because I think that both of those guys would fit in this scheme of spread out offense, throwing the ball all around, accurate, getting the ball out your hands quick, making good decisions as a quarterback, not necessarily looking to run all the time, but looking to keep plays alive. And I think that the two guys that I kind of have targeted for the Falcons in this draft will be Michael Penix and would be Spencer Rattler, just to fit this particular offense. Because we know that Jaden Daniels is off the table. We know that Caleb Williams is off the table, and pretty much Drake May is probably off the table as well. And then even McCarthy, his name from Michigan is kind of sliding up the draft boards because a lot of teams are looking to, get a quarterback. The Giants sound like they're targeting, and the Vikings look like they could be targeting McCarthy. So I really feel like the two guys that we should be looking at for the Falcons, I would keep an eye on, would be Spencer Rattler and Michael Penix Jr. I think that those are the two guys that the Falcons want, to be honest, because of this actual scheme. With that being said, I'm gonna jump right in really quick back into the chat because I seen a couple of you guys join me. Um, Shouts out to my boy Mad Mike in the chat. What's going on, bro? I hope you're feeling better. I watched you guys, a little bit of you guys show earlier today, and I heard you weren't feeling good. So I hope you're doing better, man. And Dre Murphy says, what it do, everybody? What's going on, man? I appreciate you joining me as always. Y'all make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already did it. And Nelson Jackson says, I do think we are shaping up like that Super Bowl team, pass catchers, and a good running game with a up and coming defense. Yeah, exactly. I really feel like this team is being built and formed similar to that 2016 team. And to be honest, that 2016 team was one of the better teams. Like, that was a really, really good roster. If you go up and down that roster, it had youth, but it had veterans in each and every room, which I think was really, really key for that team. And you had players that were like there that could help mold those younger players. We had the Sean Weatherspoons in the linebacker room. You had guys like Philip Wheeler, who was in the linebacker room. You had Dwight Freeney, helping young guys like a Grady Jarrett, helping young Vic Beasley come along. You had the Jonathan Babineaus, helping guys like Rashid Hageman, who was a young player in the league. So we just had a lot of veterans on that team, guys that were in each and every room, but helped those younger guys. But I really think that Falcons, that 2016 team, personally is my favorite Atlanta Falcons roster. The 2016 Falcons and the 2012 Falcons, those are like my two favorite rosters. And then, of course, the 98 team was really good as well. But that was a little bit before, before I became like a diehard Falcons fan. But the 2012 team and the 2016 team, those like two of my favorite Falcons rosters. And I think that we're building this team, that this could end up being one of those teams where, if you remember in 2016, nobody saw that Falcons team coming. And then you looked up and they were in the Super Bowl. So I really think that with Kirk Cousins, I could definitely, see this Falcons team making that next step. And Prince Kell says, with the new rules, does that kind of change a mind frame as far as the defensive coordinator's game plan? That's a good question. I don't really think it changes my game plan necessarily. I'm telling my players to be aggressive. I don't believe in tiptoeing out there on the field. I don't believe in not, playing. I feel like players got to play fast, and guys got to read and react. Like, you can't be out there thinking a whole lot. If you happen to tackle somebody like with the hip drop tackle and the horse collar and things of that nature, at times those things happen because you're just in the heat of the battle. So I don't believe in playing dirty or anything like that. But I do believe in you got to get guys down at all costs. So at the end of the day, if you're, going to make a play, going to make a tackle, you got to get the person down, by any means necessary. As long as it's clean, I don't believe in playing dirty, but I believe in guys playing fast. So I wouldn't change my game plan. Personally, I think this is going to be a very aggressive Atlanta Falcons defense. And I feel like last year we weren't aggressive enough. I think that Ryan Nielsen did a good job of, we played sound football, but I think at times we should have sent more pressure as far as blitzing and things of that nature. And I think we're going to see a little bit more of that with Jimmy Lake. He believes in, simulated pressure, meaning zone blitzes and stuff like that. And if you look at teams like Kansas City, that's what they do. They bring Trent McDuffie, they bring Snead, they bring different guys off the edge, and they use their linebackers as well. And I feel like the Falcons don't do that enough. When you got guys like Troy Anderson, you got guys like Caden Ellis and Nate Landman. These guys are downhill. They don't really second guess. They just read and react. I really feel like we need to see more blitzing from our linebackers, especially if you're not getting pressure like you want to get pressure with your front four. If I'm not getting home with my front four, I'm sending pressure. And I don't care if it's a safety, I don't care if it's a corner, but we got to pressure the quarterback and make them think about it. We can't just let them sit back there and pick us apart and get comfortable. And Tony Hall, what's going on? He says, "What's happening, Jew 2K?" I think that most of this year's draft will be picked with mostly defensive players by our Dirty Birds, just like you said. Most of the money is spent on the offensive players. Yeah, most definitely. Like all of our big money right now, and I appreciate your comment here. Yeah, most of our money right now is on the offensive side of the ball, and that's the reason why I said I don't care if Malik Neighbors is there. I don't care if Roma Dunze is there, unless for somehow, some way, the top edge guys are off the table. Like Dallas Turner's going, Latu is going, and Versus going, and then at that point, it's like, okay, well, we're gonna go best player available. That's the only way I could see the Falcons taking one of the wide receivers. And even in that instance, I'm still going to take like a corner. At that point, I'll just say I'm gonna trade back and see if I can get some more picks. I'm not going to necessarily take a corner at 8. I will probably trade back with another team and then see if I can get more value. And then I'll go and get one of the top corners that I like in the draft. But outside of that, I wouldn't take any more offensive players in the first round. I wouldn't take a first round offensive player because you've done that 3 years in a row. And we've said this before. How many first round picks can you have on one side of the ball? Like every player on the offense can't be a first round pick. At some point, you're gonna have to start finding those gems outside of the first round. And it's a ton of wide receivers in this draft, a ton of running backs. We keep seeing year in and year out guys in the draft. Tyler Algier was not a first round pick. And to me, he's a really, really good running back. If he ever gets the opportunities like he got in his rookie year where he had over 1,000 yards rushing, anytime Tyler Algier touches the ball, he's a playmaker. We've seen it in the Bears game, and that's why I got so frustrated with Arthur Smith, because in that Bears game, you literally seen them throw the ball to Tyler Algier on a little screen play. He went like 70 yards with it, and then he didn't see the field again until like the second half, like the fourth quarter. And that play happened like in the second quarter of the game. And I'm like, go back to that. When you see a player killing, you go back to it. You don't stop doing what's working. And that's what was pissing me off about Arthur Smith. It's like, you seen that works, so you should never went away from the well that was overflowing with water. That just doesn't make sense. So I definitely think, you can find skill position players. To me, it's easier to find the skill position players than it is to find those trench players. If you look at the teams that have the really good players that are in the trenches, majority of those guys that are like breakout star players were first round picks. The Max Crosbys are the diamonds in the rough. That rarely happens. If you look at the guys that we look at, Von Miller, if you think about the JJ Watts, if you think about the TJ Watts, if you think about the Khalil Max, those guys were first round draft picks. So we have to start drafting these guys early in the draft. If you look at the Eagles, which they're one of the teams that I think that are always good in the trenches, they drafted Jordan Davis, and then they turned around and drafted the other kid from Georgia the next year. So I'm like, that just goes to show you, and they didn't even need him, but he was just on the board. So they were like, well, we can never have enough, big bodies in the trenches since they're gonna allow us to get both of the Georgia kids. We're gonna go ahead and take them, and that's the way that you do it. That's smart. That's just called being smart. The game is won and lost in the trenches. And let's see here. Chris Bright says, what's nerve wracking is that fact that we are clueless on how Falcons are moving, but I trust Terry and Raheem. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I think really I'm not at this point based off of what they said. I think we're going defense, and that's why I like to hear the press conferences and things of that nature. And I like when the beat writers and stuff put out stuff on Twitter. That's the main reason I'm on Twitter, is so I can get the news right when it happens and hear kind of what is being said behind the scenes. And based off of what they're saying, based off of what was said today by Raheem Morris, I really feel like this Atlanta Falcons team is going to, build, go heavy in the draft on defensive side of the ball. And another thing that he said that I forgot to mention also is that he spoke with Calais Campbell as well. He said they haven't met in person, but he spoke with Calais and kind of talked about what his role could be on this Atlanta Falcons team in 2024. And I think, that there could be a chance that Calais comes back. He's still weighing his options, but Raheem Morris said he hasn't had a chance to meet one-on-one in person with him, but he plans on doing that. So hopefully once he meets with Calais Campbell, we get him back in the fold, because he's one of those guys that you can use in multiple ways. Because of his size, 6'7", 300 pounds, he can play on the edge. He can play in the middle of the defensive line, like at the nose or the 3 tech. And because of his size, his strength, his power, he's a guy that you can move around, and I like his ability because he can move around, similar to what Grady Jarrett does. But just him being like 6'7", long arms, extremely, not extremely athletic at this point in his age, but he's still one of those guys that's super, super. You can't teach that size, like a super big athlete. So when you got somebody 6'7" on the field, it's just hard to block a guy that's that long, pause, and just that big. Yeah, man, it's hard. And Auntie Pam says, hello, Jew and everyone. Yes, shouts out to Miss Pam in the chat. I thank you for joining me. And she said, I agree with you about Spencer Rattler in the late rounds. Yeah, Spencer Rattler is one of those guys. I'm telling you guys, I would definitely, keep an eye on Spencer Rattler, because to me, he's one of those guys that's extremely talented. And like I said, he was the guy that they were talking about, and I talked about this last week. He was the guy they were talking about prior to Caleb Williams. He was the guy that was at Oklahoma prior to Caleb Williams, before Caleb Williams, overtook the starting position. And he's extremely talented. He end up transferring to South Carolina, but he's still one of those guys I feel like that can develop. So if you look at a guy like a Jordan Love that plays with the Packers, that's who I kind of think that Spencer Rattler could turn into. He could turn into like a Jordan Love. I think he has that type of arm talent, and I think if you give him time sitting behind like a Kirk Cousins, a guy that really understands the game of football and thinks the game of football, if you can put him in a room with him, Zach Robinson, all of these offensive minded, quarterback coaches that we have, I think that Spencer Rattler could really develop into something, or Michael Penix, because we know Michael Penix is a guy I think that's really talented as well. But I think if he needs to sit like at least 1 or 2 years as well, just to get used to the NFL, the speed of the NFL game. But he could be a guy as well that's similar to like a Kirk Cousins, because Michael Penix is not super athletic as far as running around, but he's a really good read and react quarterback, meaning he sees stuff before it happens. He understands anticipation. He understands I got to get the ball out of my hands quick, put it in the Roma Doomsday's hands and the guys that I have on my roster. So I definitely think that those are the two guys that I think will fit this scheme best. And you guys start dropping your questions in the chat as well. I know that a couple of you had already dropped some questions in. We got about 30 minutes still left in the show. So I definitely want to get to you guys' questions. But like I said, man, I'm really excited for this Atlanta Falcons team. I like the vision of what Raheem Morris and where this team is headed. And I really feel like this team is immensely talented, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And with us getting that field general and Kirk Cousins, I think this Falcons team is going to be one of the highest scoring teams in the league. Like, there's no reason why this team shouldn't be a top 5 scoring team in the league based off of the weapons that you have. So I think guys like Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, those guys I think are going to explode this year because of, you know, having that quarterback that understands how to get the ball in their hands and put them in positions to succeed. And Christopher Wright says, should we truly keep Taylor and or can they really work with him if Kurt is out? Nah, I'm not a big fan of Taylor Heineke. Like, I was, good with him being the backup last year, but personally, I think the Falcons should bring in somebody, draft somebody. Because I feel like if Spencer Rattler or if Michael Penix is on this roster and somehow, some way, Kirk Cousins go down, which I hope he doesn't get injured, but if that hypothetically happened, I really feel like you would want to go with Spencer Rattler or Michael Penix. I'd rather see what they can do over a Taylor Heineke. Now, if it happens early in the season, then I think they really kept Taylor Heineke on the roster because he's a veteran guy. So you can win games with Taylor Heineke, but it's just going to look different. I don't think that Taylor Heineke is going to be able to come in and run the same exact system necessarily as a Kirk Cousins. You're going to have to, that leash is not going to be as long if you have somebody like a Taylor Heineke. Taylor Heineke is a game manager. Kirk Cousins is a guy that you just let him play. He's like a Pro Bowler and can be a really, really good quarterback. So I think they kept Taylor Heineke just as an insurance policy because we know Kirk Cousins he is coming off of the Achilles tear. So you still got to have at least, I believe you carry at least three quarterbacks on your roster at all times because you never know when somebody's going to go down with an injury. And we seen the NFC Championship game, I think it was the Eagles and the 49ers, where they didn't even have a quarterback after they got hurt. I think they had to go to Josh Johnson, and then I think at one point in that game he got hurt. So they was direct snapping the ball, I think, to Christian McCaffrey at one point in that game. So I definitely think that Taylor will probably be on the roster, but I don't trust him at this point. After seeing last year, that the writing's kind of on the wall. I was surprised, to be honest, that they kept Taylor Heineke. I thought they would keep Desmond Ritter, but they talked about they wanted Desmond Ritter to have a fresh start. And I think that that's fair for Desmond Ritter because we know Falcons fans are not patient and we can be really, really tough. Like, we were really tough on Desmond Ritter. So I think he just was like, let's get Desmond Ritter out of here where he can get a fresh start and he's not under so much pressure. All right. And Dre Murphy says, if Calais Campbell doesn't come back, at least bring back Bud Dupree. But I would like and love both of them to come back. Yeah, I would like both of them to come back as well. I haven't heard any headlines around the Falcons and Bud Dupree. Now, Bud Dupree is another guy that's from the Georgia area as well. He grew up in Georgia. But the last thing I heard about Bud Dupree is he was saying that he would like to go back to the Pittsburgh Steelers, or if there was being offered, he would definitely go back to Pittsburgh, and that's the team that drafted him. So I don't know if Bud Dupree is still on the table. But then again, I don't know if the Falcons have reached out because, like I said, Georgia is his home state. So I don't see a reason why he wouldn't want to come back to Atlanta if the opportunity presented itself. And I would definitely reach out to him because I think that he played well enough. If he's not the starter, he's definitely a really, really good backup because he played well as a starter last year. Bud Dupree's problem last year was he wasn't finishing plays. Like, it was a couple. Bud Dupree could easily had 10 sacks last year. Let's be real. I can at least remember three occasions where Bud Dupree had the guy wrapped up, and somehow, some way, we'll just talk about the one with Josh Dobbs in the Vikings game, where if Bud Dupree makes that sack, the game is over. Somehow, some way, he misses. Dobbs escapes, gets the first down, and then they go down and score a touchdown. So Let's see. On week right Mike right now. It says, please don't ask you about Taylor Heineke. I don't have nothing against Taylor Heineke. I'm just like he's as Prince Kell says right here. Taylor could be the third emergency. Yeah, Taylor Heineke is the break the glass quarterback. If you gotta go to him, okay, this the last resort. Outside of that, I seen enough of that last year. We should have known better, and that's why I was just like, as I keep saying, that's why I was so ticked off with Arthur Smith because I feel like he just didn't have a plan. He threw Taylor Heineke in the game talking about he give us the best chance to win, and I'm like, how? And Corey Gear 5, what's going on, man? He says they gotta draft a quarterback. Yeah, I agree. I'm not a big Heineke fan. Like I said, coming into it, I actually liked Taylor Heineke a lot, but I thought he was just gonna be like, if you need him to play like one or two games, I think he can keep your team afloat. If you don't rely on him, I thought we would kind of lean on the running game and then let Taylor Heineke manage the game, kind of how we did with Marcus Mariota. It wasn't a whole bunch of drop back passes. It was like we're gonna run the ball with Tyler Algier and Cordell Patterson. Then there'll be a play action pass here and there. But for whatever reason, when we had Taylor Heineke in there, a la the Bears game, we were dropping him back like 30, 40 times a game, like he was a Pro Bowl or something, or like he was that dude. And I'm like, come on, we know better. We didn't see him in Washington. We know better. The Washington gave him a chance to start, and I kept stating over and over again, it's a reason that he's not in Washington anymore, and it's not because Washington just is that bad of an organization. He wasn't that good. And let's see. And Miss Pam says Troy Anderson can be the emergency quarterback, go down. Oh yeah, definitely. Troy Anderson is a beast. Troy Anderson probably can play quarterback. He played it in college, so he probably definitely he'll be another Taysom, the next Taysom Hill on our team, and that's what he's reminds me of just based off of his build. He's one of those guys that probably could have an offensive package and actually do something because he's one of those guys that is extremely talented. That dude played some of everything at Montana State. He played quarterback, running back, linebacker. Yeah, he's one of those guys that definitely would be entertaining to watch play some quarterback if he had to. Yeah, let's see here. Mike says y'all about to cause you to go on another Arthur Smith rant. Laugh out loud. Now I'm done with that. I'm glad he's gone. To be honest with you, nothing against Arthur Smith, but man, he ticked me off last year. It's like he went away from everything that worked his first 2 years. Everything that I was patting him on the back for, he went left. I don't know what happened, but he threw his whole playbook in the garbage from the first 2 years. And Dre says, me personally, I think Taylor Heineke was put in a bad situation, just like DR9 was. Just my opinion. Both of them were put in bad situations. That's why I was ranting and I was raving because it was just a bad situation, and the whole situation was just toxic. You had these two guys, you know, you playing musical chairs. First, you say you're not gonna play musical chairs. Then we doing just what we said we weren't gonna do. We taking Ritter out, putting Haneke in for 2 games, 3 games, take him out, put Ritter back in the game, and then there's no rhythm on the offensive side of the ball. And then we wonder why guys like Kyle Pitts and Drake London is getting teed off because they're not getting the ball. And there was no chemistry, no rhythm. And that's terrible for offense and a quarterback, especially for a young quarterback. To me, he just killed Desmond Ritter's confidence. So it's like at this point, just I'm glad that Desmond Ritter also got a chance to move on because now there's a perception around Desmond Ritter that he's not that good. That's pretty much what everybody was saying, and pretty much all of the Falcon fans or Desmond Ritter haters. That's all that they were going to keep saying is we've seen what he can do. That's if he would have came back this year as a starter or came back as a backup and had to start in a game. Everybody that was hating on him, all they wanted to say was, "We seen that he's not it." That's what they were gonna say. So it was like at this point, why even keep him in this toxic environment? And let's see. And most definitely, Miss Pam said, "Jack of all trades, Troy." Yeah, Troy Anderson is definitely the jack of all trades. Y'all give me some more questions that you guys may have. We got about 20 minutes left in the show, but pretty much that's my take on it. It's like I really feel like this Falcons team is headed in the right direction. Um, I really want to see who they're going to go with as far as in the draft. You guys know that I'm big on Dallas Turner. You guys that know I'm big on Jared Verse and also Layatu Latu. And I actually was watching something today that was very interesting on YouTube, a video, and they were talking about Latu and how he's not getting enough credit. Like they think that he might be the best um, edge rusher in the draft. And I'm going to have to definitely go back and look at Latu's, go look at his tape and his highlight. He was the first edge rusher that I broke down this season out of the prospects. And to me, he's the most polished defensive end or edge rusher or outside linebacker. But I really feel like the combine kind of made me fall in love with Dallas Turner a little bit more because I seen his versatility. I seen his versatility, on film and things of that nature. And he kind of gives me those Michael Parsons vibes based off of his speed and athleticism. And you can move him around, meaning he don't have to have necessarily have his hand in the dirt. He's a guy that you can back off as a linebacker and then just blitz him, between the A gap and the B gap, or just have him come, on delayed blitzes and spot a quarterback and things of that nature. But far as pure pass rushing, if you're talking about a guy that's going to come in and hit the ground running like from day one and can possibly give this Atlanta Falcons team a shot in the arm, far as like could possibly get 10 sacks in a first season, I really feel like if I had to bet money, I think it would probably be Latu that could get to a 10 sack mark in his rookie season because he's a guy that has the different moves as far as the handwork. He's one of those guys that it's like he's doing martial arts when he out there using his hands against opposing offensive linemen. And we know in the NFL, you're not going to just be able to beat most offensive linemen, especially like left tackles and right tackles. You're not going to just be able to beat them with speed. We've seen that with Vic Beasley. Like you can be fast all you want to, but you're going to have a counter move to that speed. And I think that could be one of the hangups on a guy like a Dallas Turner is everybody's focused on just his athleticism, but does he have the ability to develop the handwork to be able to, have a secondary move? Now, I did see that Dallas Turner did have like speed to power, where he's a guy that's stronger than you think, and he can push. I've seen him push opposing offensive linemen into their own quarterback, and like for a sack. So I do think he has that ability, but I'm still, I do think that Latu is right there. So I think I need to start saying when I speak of Latu, it's a 1A, 1B, 1C situation when it comes to Turner, Verse, and Latu. I'm good with all three of those guys being taken, in that first round. And Michael says, think we move Ellis back to edge since Troy is finally back. That could be an opportunity as well. Like Caden Ellis is one of those guys that can rush the passer. And I think that you'll see him do that this year because the Rams defense and what Jimmy Lake and Raheem Morris is going to run is a 3-4, but it's a hybrid. So they're going to do multiple things in that 3-4. So I definitely think that Caden Ellis is a similar guy to like a Dallas Turner. When I was talking about like he can do multiple things. Caden Ellis can rush the passer, but he also can drop into coverage. He also can play traditional linebacker, and that's something that Caden Ellis can do as well. So he can play traditional linebacker and he can rush the passer, and that's why I compare him all the time to Michael Parsons because Michael Parsons coming into the league with the Cowboys, they were using him mainly as like a middle linebacker, and then they changed his position last year, I think it was, to like a pure pass rusher. And Miss Pam says, "What do you think about Brandon Fisk out of Florida State?" I like Brandon Fisk a lot. The thing that bothers me a little bit about Brandon Fisk is his size. I don't know if I want another smaller, like 3 tech nose tackle. But one thing I like about his game is he's all energy and all hustle. Like he doesn't give up on plays. But when I'm looking for like a run stuffer, I prefer like a bigger run stuffer, like a Onyemata or even like the kid Sweat that everybody's talking about out of Texas, or even Byron Murphy out of Texas. I think that he's a little bit bigger than Brandon Fisk. And Brandon Fisk is a guy that doesn't really have long arms. So he's kind of like a smallish defensive tackle. But I do think that he's going to last in the NFL or play well in the NFL, because I think that you can never teach hustle, meaning even if he's getting blocked, he's not going to give up on plays. So he's going to be the guy that's going to do the dirty work. And he's going to be a guy that they probably will rotate on. Most teams are going to rotate him in. So I don't think he's necessarily a starter, but I do think that he can be one of those guys that's like a poor man's Grady Jarrett, because he's a guy that just doesn't give up on plays. You're going to see him making plays on the sideline. You're going to see him chasing down quarterbacks and chasing down running backs even after they've broken the line of scrimmage. He's one of those guys that's going to chase down a running back, or chase down a bubble screen and make a tackle 5-10 yards down the field, when you don't see that a lot out of defensive tackle. So being that he's a lighter defensive tackle, he plays with that type of effort. So that's what I like about Brandon Fisk, is his effort. I don't think that he's like opposing with his size, but you can't teach effort and hustle. So I think he's like a poor man's Grady Jarrett, but I think he definitely could, do some things. I definitely think he could do some things in the right situation. And Dre Murphy says, me personally, give me Jared Verse over Dallas Turner and Latu. Injury scares me. Yeah, that's what scares me about Latu as well, is the neck injury. And if I'm gonna take a guy at 8, and there's 2 other guys that I think are their grades as far as on the draft board, I have them graded the same or around the same. At that point, I'm just gonna be like, nah, just give me the other guy, because I'm too scared to take that risk. Now, one thing that a lot of people is not focusing on is that Latu did play for Jimmy Lake when he was at Washington, and then he medically retired, and then he transferred to UCLA. So if the Falcons draft Latu, that'll tell me that Jimmy Lake had something to do with him being drafted, because he's familiar with him. And one thing that I think, that another thing that's not being said about Latu that I do like, is he has the ideal size for like an edge rusher or a defensive end. He's 6'5", like 260 pounds, if I'm not mistaken. Where a guy in Dallas Turner, he was a little bit lighter, and he basically, Alabama kind of got him up to the size that he is now, as far as to build that frame, because he was a linebacker, so he was a lot lighter. And over the last 2 years, he put on like about 15 to 20 pounds. So he went from being like 240 pounds up to like, or 235 to 240 pounds up to like 250 pounds, 260 pounds. So I really feel like that's the difference between the two. But I think that Latu definitely has the frame. Like I said, he reminds me of Jalen Phillips. If you guys, have seen the Miami Dolphins play, Jalen Phillips is who Latu reminds me of. Just a pure pass rush specialist, defensive lineman. And Michael says, I love Fisk in the second. He's like a white gray Jerry. Yeah, he's that guy. Energy. He gonna give you energy. He not gonna give up on plays. And Liquors with Lenore says, good morning. What up, Jew? What's going on, man? I appreciate you joining me as always. And Michael says, I think we can get those 2 first rounders from Minnesota. That would be amazing. Most definitely. Yeah, I think Minnesota is one of the teams that's looking at JJ McCarthy. They are like really, really, looking to get a quarterback, because they lost Kirk Cousins. And right now they have Sam Darnold. So I think they're going to be one of them teams that's going to be looking to trade up. And if they're willing to trade up and they want a quarterback, they would have to tell me like, we're looking to get a quarterback. If they don't tell Terry Fontenot that that's what their intentions are, then I'm not taking no chance on somebody moving up to take the edge rusher that I want. So if I'm the Falcons, I'm gonna sit at 8 if it's about taking the edge rusher, because I really want to be able to get the guy that I want, the pick of the litter. I talked about that with the quarterback. I don't really believe in, well, we're just gonna wait and see what guy drops to us. Like, no, if you have a draft board and you have these guys graded, I want the best pass rusher in this draft, period. So whoever our Falcons scouting department and whoever Raheem Morris and Jimmy Lake thinks are the best edge rusher in this draft, we need to come away with the best edge rusher in their book, whoever the best is, because of course we may have our own opinions, but whoever they agree upon, that is the best. And I think that's who we should draft. And let's see here. And Dre Murphy says, okay, then Jew, I didn't know that information on Latu and Jimmy Lake. Bro, thanks for the information. I appreciate you. Yes. Yeah, that they definitely have that familiarity. They have that familiarity. So that could be a reason why the Falcons draft him because they him and Jimmy Lake have a relationship already, which could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing because we've seen, and I'm not saying that this is him, but we seen with Tack McKinley. I didn't know coming out that him and Jeff Ulbrich they were together at UCLA, and then we know how that turned out. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but Latu gives me that just looking at his film tells me enough that as long as he stays healthy, that's the biggest thing with Latu is just the injuries. I don't think he's gonna be the next Tapp McKinley, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Sometimes having familiarity don't mean it's a good thing. And let's see. And Brian Peoples, what's going on? He said, "What's up, Pastor Jew? What's going on, man? Good morning. I hope all is well with you, man." And Sherman Wood says, "Good. What's good, family? What's going on, man? I appreciate you joining as well." And Jay Diaz, what's going on as well? He says Latu injury was 3 years ago. Right. That's what I'm saying. So I think he might be fine. I mean, what's crazy about Latu, and I said this before, and Jalen Phillips, to me, not only are they similar players, similar body structure, but both of those guys got injured in college. That was one of Jalen Phillips's problems as well. He was another guy that got injured and then was looking to medically retire with the Miami Dolphins. And that was the reason he kind of slid a little bit in the draft because people were worried about his injuries. But I definitely think that Latu could turn out to be a really, really good talent. Of course, our medical team will have to do their due diligence when it comes to Latu. But I do want to encourage each and every one of you guys, like if you into film study or looking at the players, like highlights, former games that they played in, I advise you to go take a look at Layatu Latu. I was really impressed when I went and watched his film. He was the first guy that I broke down in this draft class, and to me, he's one of those. He's one of those guys. He's him. He's one of them guys that he can pretty much do it all. And if you guys go back and look at the Colorado game, he was one of those guys that was in the backfield consistently, taking down Shedeur Sanders in that game. So he one of those guys that's a beast coming off the edge. So as long as he stays healthy, I think he'll be, 'cause he's a Pro Bowl talent, definitely. And Tony Hall says Jimmy Lake will have his hands full with the quarterbacks we have to face this season, like Prescott, Jalen Hurts, Herbert, Mahomes, and Wilson. I have confidence that we will meet that challenge, especially. Yeah, I definitely think we have a chance. I mean, to be honest, I'm not too concerned about the quarterbacks that we necessarily face. It's going to be really about what we do. And this is something that I heard Mike say last night, and I completely agree. And I said this numerous times last year as well. We just didn't score touchdowns in the red zone. We didn't score enough touchdowns. And a lot of people are putting that on Desmond Ritter. And I really don't think it was all on Desmond Ritter. Some of the turnovers were on Desmond Ritter, but I feel like we didn't run the ball enough in the red zone. Like when you get in the red zone, the first couple years, it was just like get a ball to CP and let them plow into the end zone. Get a ball to Tyler Algier and just be physical and just push people around and get your guy in the end zone. If you look at the Eagles, that's all they do. But that the brotherly shove, all they do is when they get in the red zone, they just basically rugby scrum their way to the end zone. And I feel like the Falcons didn't do that enough last year. We let teams off the hook. We basically took the physicality out of the game because how many times do we see them hand the ball off to Tyler Algier, just get in the I formation, just run right in the teeth of the teeth of the defense? We didn't do that enough last year. The times we did, Tyler Algier was able to take the game over, and he scored a lot of touchdowns. But last year we didn't use Tyler Algier enough, and we definitely didn't use Cordell Patterson, and that's the reason why he took the social media about it, and why he was upset about it, because it was like coming into the season, we were told he's the Joker and we're going to use him and do all these different things. And we used him the first 2 years, and it was almost like a tease. We used him too much in the first 2 years. And then last year, we just didn't use him at all. Like Cordell Patterson rarely touched the ball last year. So I felt bad for him because it kind of ended on a sour note when it didn't have to end that way. But it was just like, for whatever reason, Arthur Smith was too enamored by Bijan Robinson and trying to get, him the ball. You're trying to prove why we drafted him that high instead of just naturally, putting him in the game in certain situations. He's not a guy that necessarily needs 20 to 30 touches every game. And Shep 5X says, do you think we could trade that eighth pick and maybe a second and or third to Minnesota for 11 and 23? We probably could do that, to be honest. It just depends on how bad Minnesota wants to trade up and how bad they really want JJ McCarthy or one of those quarterbacks. Do they really, really want somebody that's in the top of the draft? If they do, I could see the Falcons definitely, you know, giving them a try or, going after possibly trading down. Now, I really feel like it depends on how the draft falls, meaning like, does the quarterbacks come off the draft one, two, three, four, like come off quick, where other guys, other good talent is being pushed down the draft board. But if it's guys that are like wide receivers, quarterbacks, offensive linemen, and they're not coming off the board at one time, meaning all of the quarterbacks coming out, one, boom, 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 then I feel like at that point you might want to stay at 8 because there could be a team that just takes the edge rusher you want. So that's the only thing that I'm not really willing to risk. If I'm the Falcons, you want to get your guy. You don't want to just trade back just for more assets because just for the sake of having more assets. Now, if you see your guy, that your number one guy on your board is falling, then at that point, yeah, go ahead and trade back and get more assets. But if that's not the case, I would just want my pick of the litter. I'm picking the outside linebacker or the pass rusher that I want. And Christopher Wright says Arthur was listening to the media more than he led on. Yeah, he definitely was. I mean, I really feel like he just panicked. Once we lost a couple games, I think that he lost faith in Desmond Ritter. He kind of panicked. And that his panic is what, messed up the whole thing. If it to me wrecked the season because then it was like, and I said this when he did it. It's like once you bench Ritter, you can't not go back to it unless injury happens. I mean, they did go back to it, but it was just like you told the locker room and the veteran guys like the Jonnu Smiths and the Calais Campbells. How can you expect those guys to still believe that Desmond Ritter's the guy when you clearly benched him when he was completely healthy? You said, nah, he not that. I don't think he's the guy for the team. I don't think he's the guy to lead this offense. And then Heineke have a couple bad games. All right, you know what? I was wrong. Let's go back to Desmond Ritter. He gives us the best chance to win. And then turn around and go back to Heineke. So it's just like it didn't make sense, man. It was just like he was all over the place. He didn't have no plan. So I really feel like he not only killed Desmond Ritter's confidence, but he killed the confidence of the whole locker room because it's like, well, do he really know the quarterback position? Does he really have a vision? And does his vision work? The quickest way to get players to buy in is to win. If you're winning, players are going to buy in. If you're losing and you're not getting the results, usually, if unless you're a veteran player, usually if what you're preaching and teaching, Monday through Saturday before the games, and it's not working, usually young players are going to start to tune you out. But if you're a veteran guy like a Calais Campbell, I don't think he let go of the rope because he's been in the game long enough to know that at any point there could be a breaking point in that can, rock make your turn your season around. But the younger guys, I really feel like once they start seeing that the season was kind of unraveling, I think that a lot of those guys start tuning Arthur Smith out at that point. And you could just look at the last game of the season against the Saints where they blew us out. It was kind of like players just almost like gave up, like, all right, man. They knew the writing was on the wall. Like Arthur Smith ain't finna be here anyway. So yeah, I'm gonna still play hard and want to put out good film because I might not be an Atlanta Falcon next year. But they knew that the writing was on the wall for Arthur Smith as well. Like he's not gonna be back. And Christy, what's going on? I appreciate you joining me as well. I hope all is going well with you. And we're gonna get ready to jump out of here like in a few moments. So if you guys got a question, if you just jumped in, if you want to drop your question really quick, because we've been on for about an hour. And Corey Gear says CP was a top 10 rusher 2 years ago. Algier the next year. Why not run the ball with them? Exactly. And that was my problem. It wasn't the problem with us trying to run trick plays and stuff like that. My problem was you didn't even attempt to run the ball before you tried to trick somebody. Like, okay, we're gonna just run a sweep with Jonnu Smith on the 1 yard line instead of just quarterback sneaking or putting Keith Smith in the backfield and putting Algier in the backfield or CP and just run up the gut like we done the last 2 years when we were scoring in the red zone. It was like, well, nah, let's trick them. Let's run a reverse tight end pass. Like that don't make sense. It just don't make sense. Like you making the game, you're overthinking, as I kept saying. He was outthinking himself. It's no reason to do that. But trust me, with this new regime, I don't think we don't have to worry about that because now you got a lethal quarterback in Kirk Cousins that's going to understand how to get the ball in the end zone. He understands when he gets in the red zone. If you go, guys, go check out DJ Shockley. He breaks down on the Atlanta Falcons YouTube page. He breaks down Kirk Cousins and why Kirk Cousins was brought to the Falcons, and he shows Kirk Cousins understanding how to make tight window throws, understanding where to put the football as far as ball location, and understanding reads and knowing where to go with the football prior to the snap. And I think that that's another thing that kind of goes overlooked when it comes to quarterback play. If you have a veteran quarterback and a guy that's been around the elite, or not even the elite, but I'll say like the Pro Bowlers, the Pro Bowl quarterbacks, the really good quarterbacks, they understand the progressions. And they actually, when they come to the line of scrimmage, they already know what defense you're playing. They already know who their hot read is. They already know all of those things. And I think a lot of the times with younger quarterbacks like the Desmond Ritters, like the Justin Fields, those guys don't know that. They don't. It takes time for to understand, those type of things. And I really feel like that's the difference between a Kirk Cousins and having like a rookie quarterback or a quarterback that hasn't been around the game. That's what separates the really good quarterbacks from the mediocre quarterbacks. Is as a quarterback, you gotta know when you come to the line of scrimmage. Tom Brady already know. He looked to his left, he looked to his right. Okay, I already know who's blitzing. I already know, who's going to be open immediately, whatever my hot read is. I know who's going deep on this play. I expect he knew pretty much what to expect from each and every player, not only on the offensive side of the ball, but also on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that that's the difference between the good quarterbacks and the great quarterbacks. So I really feel like that's where we're going to see the difference, see our team take a leap as far as at the quarterback play. Is Kirk Cousins is a quarterback that sees things before they happen. He's going to be able to tell Bijan Robinson or tell, a Drake London or a Kyle Pitts, cut this route off at 8 yards or do this, do that. And he's going to be able to go back to the sideline and tell, the coaches like Zach Robinson, this is what they're doing. So we need to make this type of adjustment. So it's not just about the coaches making adjustments, but if you got a really good player on your team, a really good player can see what the defense is doing and make adjustments on the fly. And that's what made Tom Brady special. That's what made Peyton Manning special. That's what makes guys like Aaron Rodgers, the really good quarterbacks, the Pat Mahomes. You can't give them a dose of the same thing over and over again on defense. That's the reason we lost the Super Bowl, because Tom Brady's a player that if you keep running cover three or the same defense, you keep all out blitzing, he's going to eventually figure out this is what we need to do to counteract what they're doing. And I really feel like that's the difference between a Kirk Cousins and like a Desmond Ritter, or even drafting one of these young quarterbacks. Is Kirk Cousins is going to be able to hit the ground running because he's seen every defense you can pretty much throw at him. So he's going to be able to give these guys the gems in the locker room. He's going to be able to tell these guys, this is what they're doing in the film room. This is what they're doing. And that's why he talked about, when they interviewed Kirk Cousins, he talked about basically wanting to get to know the players that are on the team. Like, I want to know their ins and outs. I want to know Kyle Pitts. I'm looking at all his film. Why are you running the route this way? What did you see the safety of the corner do? those different nuances is what makes the difference in games, in close games, especially when you need a play to be made. You have to have those as I talk about, those bread and butter type plays where like the back of your hand. Matt Ryan knew in this situation, in this coverage, I'm throwing the ball to Julio Jones, and it was either a comeback route, a dig route. They had different. He could just look at Julio, and they knew by making eye contact or a nod, do this. This is what they run and do this. And shouts out to my bro in the chat, Panthers Prime Podcast, man. What's going on, Demetrius? I appreciate you joining me, man. Y'all definitely go over to his channel as well. We definitely gonna have to do something, man. He says we're gonna have to link up and do a roundtable. Yeah, we definitely got to do one real soon, man. But he's a Panthers content creator. Definitely enjoy his content, man. I've been on his channel a couple times and jumped into his live shows and things of that nature. So y'all definitely go show him some love as well. And we definitely gonna have to talk some NFC South talk real soon, or maybe around the draft or something like that, or after the draft. We definitely can talk because at that point our teams are kind of been taking shape, so we can talk about some things, man. But I appreciate you jumping in, and I'm gonna take like two more questions, and then we're gonna get up out of here. I'll give you guys your Tuesdays back, and let's see. And I think Dre Murphy's just talking to Corey Gear. Says Corey Gear, me either, bro. But I hope, pray, and wish he could get us to the the playoffs, and not just the playoffs, but also to the Super Bowl, and prove people wrong that he can win more than one playoff game. Okay, so y'all talking about Kirk Cousins? Yeah, man, Kirk Cousins is like that. I keep trying to tell you guys, don't worry about Kirk Cousins. Like, he's the least of our worries. I'm more concerned about our defense more than I am about Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is basically similar to a Matt Ryan. When Matt Ryan was on our team, I had no worries about the offense functioning outside of what they protect Matt Ryan as far as the offensive line. But outside of that, if you told me that we're going to have a really good offensive line, which I know the Falcons have at this point, I'm not worried about Kirk Cousins. Everybody keeps worrying about he has one playoff victory. And I say, so what to that? I said that when we first were talking about getting Kirk Cousins. And I'll go back to what I said before about the people that keep saying that he has one playoff win. Go look at Matthew Stafford's stats against winning teams when he was with Detroit. Go look at his playoff record when he was in Detroit. It wasn't good. Immediately he goes to the Rams. Immediately, the first year he wins the Super Bowl. Now that tells you what? That it wasn't Matthew Stafford. It was the environment that he was in. It was the Detroit Lions as an organization. So I'm not concerned at all when it comes to Kirk Cousins about winning big games. I'm not concerned because all I want is a chance. I keep telling people, once you get into the dance, you just need a chance, man. You get into the dance, anything can happen. And if you are the top team, like the number one, team in the NFC, you only got to win 2 games to get to the Super Bowl. You literally got to win the divisional round, and then you got to win in the divisional round, and then win the NFC Championship game, and you in the Super Bowl. So it's not anybody that can convince me that Kirk Cousins can't win 2 back-to-back games and get into a Super Bowl. If Brock Purdy can lead the 49ers to a Super Bowl, Kirk Cousins can get the Falcons to a Super Bowl, because Kirk Cousins is better than Brock Purdy. And yeah, I said it. Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Brock Purdy. Yes, Brock Purdy, has played well, but he has to consistently prove that that's who he is. Brock Purdy's only been in the league, I believe, 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. Kirk Cousins has been putting up these numbers for over a decade. This dude has been around the game. So I really feel like it's just, again, you're a product of your environment. You're only as good as the guys around you. So you put Kirk Cousins with the 49ers, they probably will be Super Bowl champions, to be real with you guys. If you put him with the 49ers, because they've been to 2 different Super Bowls. So I think you put him on that first Niners team when they played against Kansas City and they were winning the game pretty much the majority of the game. I really think if that's Kirk Cousins with the 49ers in that Super Bowl where Jimmy Garoppolo misses a wide open, I think it was Emmanuel Sanders running down the field, streaking down the field. most likely Kirk Cousins is making that throw on a dime, and that would have been a touchdown on that post route when Jimmy Garoppolo overthrows a wide open Emmanuel Sanders. So that's the difference between a really good quarterback, like I said, and a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, who's just like an average guy. Kirk Cousins is a boy. He's like a top 10 quarterback in today's NFL. He's in that top 10-ish, 12-ish range. So he's one of those guys that it's a reason we gave him that type of money. They gave him that $100 million guarantee. And it's because of his record, his stats and his time in the NFL. He's basically proven that he's one of those guys that consistently throws for 4,000 yards, consistently, 3 touchdown to 1 interception ratio. Those type of things is what, coaches, what scouts, what offensive coordinators look at. So that was the reason why Raheem Morris and why they decided to go with the veteran quarterback over a rookie quarterback or over just sticking it out with a Desmond Ritter. We need a guy that can get in here and score points, especially in the red zone. Get this. It's no reason this team shouldn't be averaging. This Falcons team shouldn't be averaging 25 points a game, or at least 25 points a game, based off of what we have on the roster. And let's see here. And my boy Demetrius says, I've been looking at y'all at your defense. It's shaky, but might look better after the draft. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. Our defense is looking shaky right now. We gotta go out and build. Like based off of what we have right now, I'm not confident going into next year, but what we just have. Now I'm a little bit more confident because I know that Kirk Cousins, as our quarterback, and I mentioned this earlier, he's gonna put pressure on opposing teams to keep up with the Falcons. So it's not going to be teams that's just going to be able to score 19 points in a game and beat us. Now with Kirk Cousins on his team, you're going to have to put up points. Where we had games last year, we played the Jets. It was like 10-7. That Panthers game, we played you guys. I think it was like, 9-7 or something. It was something crazy in that game when it rained. But if we had Kirk Cousins in that game, I don't think it would have been close, to be honest with you. If we had Kirk Cousins last year in that second game where we played the Panthers, where Desmond Ritter throws that crazy interception at the end of the game on the sideline, I really feel like really we should have won last year, to be honest. All we had to do was kick a field goal. The game was over. But, if was a fifth, we all be drunk. So I can't say that. But with that being said, man, I'm going to get ready to wrap it up here. But let's see here. He said people forget Cousins doesn't play defense, folks. Michael, right? Exactly. Yeah, he doesn't play defense. Exactly. Yeah, Kirk Cousins don't play defense. He said drop the link. Demetrius, you want me to drop the link? I got a few minutes. If you want me to drop the link, I'll drop the link. Since you always let me come into your shows. Give me 1 second here. I'm gonna drop the link so he can come in here for a second. Let's see. All right, so I just dropped the link. If you wanna join me real quick. Yeah, there you go. Corey Gear says team's gonna have to drop 24 points to beat the Falcons this year. Yeah, you're gonna have to put up points. I'm just being real. When Matt Ryan was here, you come on the field with 21 points in your pocket. So what's going on, bro? Can you hear me? You on mute.
Yo, can you hear me?
There you go. I can hear you. What's up, man?
And doing good, man. Thank you for letting me up on the platform, man.
Well, most definitely, man. Plug yourself and all of that.
Yeah. Well, I'll do that right now. Hey guys, so my name is Demetrius with the PPP Panthers Prime Podcast. I have my own YouTube channel where all I do is talk about the Carolina Panthers in the NFC South. And I met Jude last year. I did a video. I think it was the video that I talked about. Can the Panthers do something with Bijan Robinson? Do we have an answer for Tyler Algier? Just a very non-biased, looking at the tape, because of course you guys was the first team that we played, so had to look at it from that perspective. But yeah, man, I hit you up. I think you was I think I hit you up, and actually if we could do a round table before, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, man. We talk all the time, man. When I pull up, I pull up randomly up at times on your live shows. I said, man, I definitely gotta let them up in here real quick because I know I was
Yeah.
coming into y'all the Panthers territory. So man, you in the territory now. But yeah, man,
yeah. I'm a little nervous,
oh, nah, you good, man. It's all love at the end of the day.
Yeah, man. I mean, you guys brought in Kirk Cousins, man, which I think was, a pretty good move. I think the money was a little bit too much, but the experience, should pay for the type of money that you guys are paying him. I said as soon as you guys did get him that Carolina Panthers going to have to do something. Bryce Young ain't Bryce Young ain't him right now, man, and it's attributed to the type of scheme that we ran last year. Just how much of a Hunger Games mentality was reported in the Carolina Panthers organization. And, I think you're absolutely correct. That second game that we played in Charlotte when it was raining, if you had a competent quarterback, albeit it was a rain game, and we know that the game plan was to ground and pound. But when you did pass, Kirk Cousins wasn't going to make that type of pass where you got 4 defenders in one area and only 2 Falcons players. So I do agree with you. I think that you guys maybe would have came out with a sweep last year, but Desmond Ridder, handed us a layup. But to the guy's point, who was it? Michael Anthony, to say that the Falcons defense is shaky, it's freaking ignorance at its finest. Well, your podcaster, Jew Talk, alluded to the fact that it is a little shaky. I mean, and you can say that when you're not emotionally tied to perspective. I love the Carolina Panthers, but believe me, they play bad. I'm going to tell you. And right now, they playing bad, and that's what we've been talking about on my platform. So I just want to bring that up, man. When we do analysis on stuff, we're not coming from a totally emotional side, because I can always say that the Carolina Panthers are the best team in the NFC South based on 2015, 2016, 2017. But,
Right.
But no, that wouldn't be true. That'd be emotions.
Right, exactly. Now I feel you, man. Now I got Mike in the back, man. That's my bro, man. He's
okay.
Third of the heavy hitters. He want to jump in, so I'm gonna let him retort as well, and y'all can
Let's
talk
do it.
as well. Yeah, man. Like I agree, and I'll just say this before I bring him in. It's like I really feel like with the Falcons last year, we were just a quarterback away in decisions, better coaching away from winning. Because to me, last year we should have won the division. It was just terrible coaching. And then you had a young quarterback just making rookie mistakes. Outside of those two things, I feel like we were the most talented team, and we squandered all of that talent. And that's what ticked me off, because I'm very mild-mannered. But what I don't have time for is like when your coaches, when you talent is immensely talented and you're losing games to teams that you have no business. Like
right.
The Panthers, but you even though you addressed it, the Panthers had no business beating us at all. I don't care if it's a winter storm outside. Ain't no way all that talent you got on Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, Cordell Patterson, who really wasn't even playing, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. Like, to be honest, I really feel bad for Bryce Young, because to me, he's even getting a bad rap. And I mentioned this earlier. I don't know if you mentioned in the show, but I'm like, quarterbacks are a product of their environment, as I mentioned previously. Like I think you guys are doing the right thing, because I see you guys are beefing up your offensive line, and that was half of you guys' issue last year was he wasn't being protected. So it's like the first thing that you got to build for an offense is an offensive line. That's paramount. I don't care who the quarterback is. If you can't protect, doesn't matter. I don't care if he's 5 foot tall or whether he's 7 foot tall. If you don't got no offensive line, it's not going to matter. And everybody keep bringing up his size. Yes, he is small, but outside of that, I mean, I really feel like it was just he wasn't protected. And we seen Matt Ryan before he left. He got banged up, because our offensive line, until we got Lindstrom and McGarry, we were pretty bad as well on our offensive line. We didn't do a good job of protecting Matt either. So I think you guys are doing the right thing. I know you guys are paying, like I seen you guys pay like Robert Hunt big money, but it's like
$150 million for 5 years, man. $20 million a year.
Y'all trying to fortify that offensive line. And at this point, because y'all made that huge investment in y'all quarterback, you got to protect the asset at the end of the day. So that's what it is. But I'm going to bring my bro in with us too, so he can give his analysis as well.
Gotcha. Hey, Christy Lewis, thank you so much for subscribing. I hope I give you unbiased Panthers
Oh,
news.
the hell with all that. I'm subscribed to you too, so I don't want to hear that crap. All right, look. I'm subscribed to you too, so I think I have the wherewithal to be able to say we don't do emotions over here. To say that the Falcons' defense is shaky is absolutely nonsense. Why?
Okay.
Why would you say that the Falcons' defense is shaky?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So when I look back at you guys' schedule, now let's go past the Jacksonville game last year where you guys lost 23-7. Okay. You guys then went to the Texans. You guys won 21-19. And then you kind of was back and forth, and those games in which you was back and forth were predominantly defensive games. And the defense just did not get it done at times. Okay,
so
you guys were in games plenty of times, but your defense allowed a lot of leakage. Am I right or am I wrong?
Well, you're wrong based on that because the defense actually kept us in a lot of games. The offense, we weren't scoring. We were one of the worst teams as far as scoring in the red zone. So the defense actually did a good job of keeping us in games.
Hold on. I'm looking at this right here, and you guys.
Yeah, when we had Grady Jarrett. When you talk about if you're looking at the roster and say, all right, where's the star guy at? Chances are you're not going to see that. All right. Chances are you, but this team plays well as a unit. If you got three linebackers, you got a guy like Troy Anderson, who played well when he was there, got on the up and up, Caden Ellis, and then you have Nate Landman. All those guys played well. Secondary. Okay. In my opinion, one of the best safeties in the game. I don't think anybody can do that. And then you have a guy like AJ Terrell who travels. He does exactly what he does. And you have a guy like Clark Phillips. I think he's on the up and up. But like if you look at this team in itself, to say that it's shaky, I don't believe that because once when you look at a defense, if you look at a defense as far as the team and their playing in itself, they played well. They got more sacks. I think we could have easily gotten more simulated pressures as you stated earlier. But like this defense played well as a unit. But like the thing that kept the Atlanta Falcons out of games is because we couldn't score in red zone. Defense held. If I'm not mistaken, they were
what was your rank?
Top team and giving up second half points. So the defense did their job.
I want to defense
did their job.
I want to interject real quick. So as he stated, and where I agree with both you guys, but where I agree with Demetrius is I'm talking about going into this year. If Demetrius is referring to last year's team, as Mike was saying, we were a top 10 defense pretty much majority of the season. I think we ended the season at like 12th in overall defense, but the defense played well last year. When I say that the defense is shaky on my end is based off of the guys that we haven't re-signed. And that's why I was telling Demetrius, is like, as he mentioned, let's see after the draft what we do. Because based off of last year's team, we have, as I mentioned last week's show, we got 12 and a half sacks on somebody's couch. Bud Dupree's not on the team. He had 6.5 sacks. Players Campbell led our team in sacks, 6.5 sacks. So that's 13 sacks right there. So that's an issue for me as far as that. But outside of that, like if he's referring to last year's defense, no, last year's team was stout because we had, the depth. You know what I'm saying? We had the depth. So our team was good. And that's why, I was on Arthur Smith's neck all season because it was just like, you're wasting talent. We got all of this talent. Like, come on. Like, we got to win these games. It's no reason to be losing to the Panthers. And I told Demetrius, there's no.
Not. Hold on. You done said that three
probably
times.
where the disconnect from. Like, are you saying this year or you saying last year?
You done said that 3 times. I want to give you 3 times to talk about the Panthers. After that, it's time to fight. Nah, I'm just playing. Man. Nah. So okay. So talk to me about this game right here. 23-25 Cardinals. Who lost that game?
Well, that
a missed sack. I can tell you that we literally had Kyler Murray scrambling 10 yards behind the back in the backfield, and we lost contain on him. Should have been
Okay.
ended the game because I think it was like a fourth down. They went
Okay.
for it, and he
Okay.
scrambled like 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And AK, who's our edge rusher, who has a chance to be a special player, he lost contain, and he ended up picking up a first down with his legs. He ended up scrambling 10 yards behind the line and picked up like 20. He came back all the way around. Yeah, man. We had 2 games back to back.
It was a couple of games like that, but for the most part, they one of the better third down defenses in the league.
But
So it's like the thing is,
okay,
I
go ahead.
always put teams in a category. There's teams that play well and they're consistent as far as their defense is concerned. You look at a team like Minnesota; they always play decent all year long as far as their defense is concerned. And they get to the playoffs, and then they fold. Why? Because they don't make the necessary plays in the key moments. That's been one of the Falcons' issues. It wasn't a major issue all year. It was just for whatever reason we would get in those moments without a Grady Jarrett there. This is why you need those special players to to come in and close the deal. And we didn't have a Grady Jarrett there. And a lot of games, but like for the most part, those guys got off the field. But like if the Falcons play well, better in the red zone, they score more touchdowns instead of kicking field goals.
Well, yeah.
You talk about completely different.
Well, yeah. I mean, of course, when you're looking at it on the grand scheme of things, 6 is better than 3, correct? But I'm looking at a lot of you guys' game log right now, and I mean, a lot of your games were winnable games. So, and I always do like a brief synopsis on the Falcons, the Saints, and the Buccaneers, just kind of see how they're doing. And for me, Desmond Ridder wasn't as bad as it's almost like how we feel about certain players on the Panthers. Like I can't stand Shaq Thompson because I don't feel like he plays to the same level as a Luke Kuechly or Thomas Davis, right? But when you look at his numbers speak a little bit differently. But I don't see the eye test. Now, when I watched you guys last year, there was a lot of games, a good bit of games that Desmond Ridder had you guys in some games, and the defense wet the bed a lot of times, more than what you guys are kind of giving them, flack for.
I don't know about that. Look, you talking to a Falcons fan that literally saw these guys,
Right.
fumbling snaps at the wrong moment. So the thing is
Understood.
it's not so much. It's not so much that these guys continuously, went to bed. It's those moments, and Drew always speaks about those 3 or 4 plays during the game where it's like, all right, it's the momentum. Once the momentum is against you in NFL, we all know that like it's an uphill climb. So I think that's an issue where Arthur, he didn't understand. All right, this guy's, and this is what Drew was talking about earlier. But it's like you got to understand when guys are hot, continue to feed them, and this is why it's like you have a Tyler Algier, you have a Bijan Robinson. When these guys are hot, give them the damn ball. Don't ask Desmond Ridder to freaking throw. You know what I'm saying? It's things like that as coaching that you have to have a beat on. And I think this is why you bring in a guy like Raheem Morris. For the most part, he's good at in-game managing. And Arthur, like I said, that's been the main issue, is knowing when and when not to do certain things. And momentum in games and momentum swings is huge in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, and listen, it could be up to everything that we're saying is subjective.
It's a lot of look. It's a lot of what ifs. It's a lot of what ifs for both Panthers and the Falcons. So, like I said, man, I'm a huge fan. But I'm a shit starter, so y'all know how you know how I am. I love to start crap. I'm very vocal about starting crap.
Oh yeah.
But like I said, man, I appreciate your channel. I watch it. And I'll definitely continue to support. As a matter of fact, I'll hit me up on Twitter, Mad Mike Sports, and we'll like to have you on soon. So, like I said, as a matter of fact, we'll probably have you on the heavy hitters. But yeah, man, like I said before, the Falcons. I think when you look at this defense, to be honest, the Falcons just don't have that one guy you can say, all right, outside of Grady Jarrett, he's the difference maker. That's where a lot of people, and maybe that's Dallas Turner, maybe that's a lot to you. I don't know. But the Falcons have to make that difference. They have to find that difference maker. And today, we don't have that outside of Grady Jarrett. He coming back from a torn ACL. We don't know what he's going to look like.
Right.
David Onyemata, he's a solid player, but he's not a difference maker. So the Falcons have to find that difference maker. How y'all feel about Brian Burns? That's one thing. Before I go,
Okay.
I have to figure out what your take. So I'm gonna hop off you. I appreciate it, but yeah, man, keep doing your thing.
Most deaf, man. And I would love to be on the panel with you guys, man. Just let's talk, and I'll hit you up on your social media, and we'll just go from there, man. But thank you.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. All right, Drew, I'll be real quick because I know you're ready to get off. So for Brian Burns, when you look at Brian Burns, you look at the totality of his career. He came into the league 2018, 2019. He's a single sack a year type of guy, meaning he's not going to get you more than 9 sacks in a year. He has an outlier of 12.5, which was last year, year before last now. When we had Steve Wilkes, and last year they moved him to off the ball, so he was just standing up, didn't have his hands in the dirt, and he gave you 8 or 9 sacks as well. So to get that type of money, and actually Dan Morgan alluded to this yesterday in his press conference while they were in Orlando. If we would have gave Brian Burns that $30 million, it would have locked the Panthers up from being able to do what they need to do in free agency, and we got that same production in a DJ Wanham for Minnesota. So if for less money, Brian Burns is going to give you just 8-9 sacks. That's it. So for me, it wasn't that I didn't like the guy. For me, it was can his production be replicated for cheaper so we can get more assets? Because the Panthers next year is sitting on $145 million right now with no dead money going into next year as of right now. So we got to.
I said y'all in good shape. I like what y'all are doing. Like I said, y'all basically had to just y'all are in rebuild mode. Look at y'all last year. It was just like y'all in complete rebuild mode. Y'all basically started with your quarterback instead of starting in the trenches or whatever. You started with your quarterback, and now y'all building around it. So I think you guys are doing the right thing. I mean, at this point, because y'all gave up so much to get Bryce Young, y'all have to make sure he succeeds at the end of the day. Is what I've been stating. Y'all got to do everything y'all can to make sure that kid succeeds. And to me, he's a really good player. To me, watching last year, even the second game that we played you guys, I seen him grow from game one, because I don't watch all of the Carolina games, because I'm watching the Falcons games and simultaneously. But from what I've seen out of the games I got to see Bryce Young play, he started to use his legs a little bit more, and that's something that we wanted Desmond Ridder to do a little bit more. He's really mobile, but he just was reluctant to use his legs. And that's something that I've seen Bryce Young do a lot more. As he scrambled, he would just run straight up the pocket and just scramble out and get a couple yards and slide. He was protecting himself. And then he, as a passer, in that second game, he made some key throws in that last drive when we threw the interception to get you guys in the field goal range. So at the end of the day, you guys earned it. My problem was we got all this talent, and what we doing with it? We're squandering it. So I knew when they first benched Desmond Ridder, and Mike was on here. I told all of them, it's done. Coach Arthur Smith getting fired.
Yeah,
I told him that then when he said we're benching Desmond. I said that's it. This is when things are finna go off the rails, because he basically took the confidence of both Desmond Ridder and the guys that were believing in Desmond Ridder. He basically split the locker room, even though those guys were still playing, to win games, like the Calais Campbells and the veteran guys you have. But we got a lot of young guys on the offensive side of the ball. So I really feel like with him bitching Desmond Ridder, it kind of made Kyle Pitts roll his eyes. It kind of made guys like London kind of okay, because they're riding for this dude. They're like, this is the guy that you told us, this is the dude that's going to get us to the promised land. Now not even halfway through the season, a fourth through the season or third through the season, you automatically just reverse ship. You know what I'm saying? And then try to go back to him. So I'm just like, it was just, he created his own, he did it to himself. That's what we kept saying. He did it to himself. At the end of the day, I really feel like if he sticks with Desmond Ritter, we probably still make the playoffs because the games that we're talking about that we lost, Desmond Ritter didn't even play in that Cardinals game. That was a game that he was benched in, and he was benched before that game, and then he didn't play in that Minnesota game either. And that was a game where Kirk Cousins had already been injured like 2 weeks prior. So they came into that game. That was the game where Josh Dobbs didn't even practice with the team. They said he just showed up like a couple days before they played us on a Sunday, and they end up beating us. So that's how bad it was. It was
I remember that. Yeah,
bad management, man. And that's why I say, like, it's no way. Like, when you hear them kind of stories, when they were just telling the story, I'm like, it's no way this man keeps his job just off of these factors. You're making yourself look bad. You got a man walking off the street and they beating us. Like, come on. And it was at home. We were at home in that game. So it's just like, come on, dog. You can't have that.
I'm not gonna lie. At first, the first 2 games, because y'all played us, then y'all played Green Bay. You guys were rolling at home. I was like, yo, I was like, Atlanta's a team to beat, man, for the NFC South, man. And then, you know, I mean, you guys finished 1 game up under Tampa Bay, which, you know, the NFC South. I'm not gonna lie. I want us to be feared as a division. People think they could just roll into the NFC South and just, I mean, because they can, and they have done it. Like we put the least amount of, you know, wins secondary to another division, and you know, they just roll right through us, man, like as if we're just paper. So I like the fact that the Panthers did beef up the guard position. We did move Austin Corbett from the guard position to center, and we got Damian Lewis from the Seattle Seahawks, and we got you know, Robert Hunt from the Miami Dolphins. We also picked up Yosh from the Green Bay Packers, which is he could play left or right tackle, and I hope that there's competition with him and Icky, because Icky was getting just drove back, and Taylor Moton. Like, our offensive line was just horrible last year, bro. It made no sense.
Yeah, y'all, that was y'all biggest, you know, Achilles heel, and that's why I said I can't really give, like, how can you really give a real analysis on a quarterback when the offensive line is not even protecting? Like, I can't even say nothing negative about him because I just feel like he's in a bad situation.
But I will say this: there was now we just watched from week 1 to week 5 of the all 22 of the Panthers games. The best showing for the offensive line and Bryce Young was actually week 1 against you guys.
Yeah,
so far that was the best showing. Week 2 against the Saints, Icky looked horrible. I mean, it was bad. And then kind of like what you said, how Arthur Smith kind of changed up stuff. Frank Wright changed the whole entire playbook. When we played you guys, we ran like a full house type of situation with, you know, a lot of pre-snap motion. When we got to the Saints game, just that next following Monday after that, bro, it was a totally different scheme and everything. They went to like this 5-wide curl route type situation with halfback dives and stayed there for at least right now up into the Lions game. And man, it's getting worse and worse. We about to hit the Dolphins game in the Minnesota game pretty soon, and those games were horrible, man. Horrible for Bryce.
Yeah, I watched the Saints game because I think that was a Monday night game. So
that was a Monday night game.
I didn't like it, and I told you early when I had jumped in one of your chats, I think I had mentioned it. I wasn't a fan of y'all picking up the running back from Philly. I really feel like, Miles Sanders. I'm not a huge Miles Sanders fan, nothing personally against them, but I thought that, to me, the other kid that you guys have, I wanted us to draft him, and I think that he's better. He just runs harder, and to me, he's just better. I can't think of his name, but I think he's like number 30. He's light skinned. I forget his name.
Chuba Hubbard.
Chuba Hubbard. To me, he's just a better running back. I understand you guys paid Miles Sanders, but I'm just like, when you turn on the tape, when I see him run, he just runs harder. He seems like he just gets more yardage. So I really feel like they kind of tried to force that Miles Sanders issue, and I'm like, he stays injured. That's the reason Philly got rid of him, because he just stays injured. He's a good player, but it's just like, for whatever reason, he's always nicked up. He's always got a pull hamstring, something's going, something's going wrong. So,
well, we looked at it on my channel, man. If the Panthers wanted to remove him, it'd have to be a post-June, trade situation. It'll save us $10 million in cap, and only be I think like a 1.2 mil or 2.2 mil, something like that, situation this year. So, I mean, the production that Miles Sanders gave us, and listen, this goes back to Frank Wright not knowing what he was doing. So during the preseason, he got another growing injury. like the first week of like training camp or whatever. He didn't play no preseason games, and I kept saying it would be malpractice because that's what Frank Wright used when we was in the combine looking at quarterbacks. He said it'd be malpractice if we don't look at all the quarterback options here with the number 1 pick. And I'm thinking to myself, well, it's malpractice if you put in a running back who's a one cup type of person, you know, to put him in as the starting running back. And that's what they did against Atlanta, man. And you saw, I mean, he didn't do nothing in Atlanta. It was Chuba Hubbard. It was Chuba.
Yeah, Chuba is that guy. Like Chuba is the guy for y'all. And somebody said in the chat here, Dre Murphy, and he made a good point too. And you know, I talked about Deontay Foreman when you
bro, don't bring that up, man. Don't bring that up, man.
Like a hot knife through butter. And then he's one of them guys that I just like because he's just a physical. Certain running backs just have that tenacity, and that's to me how he runs the ball. Similar to what we have here. Like I love Bijan Robinson, but I felt Bijan is not a player that needs 25 carries because he don't get better as the game goes on. He's just a guy where you can get a ball in space and he'll make you miss. He can run between the tackles, but I prefer Tyler Algier in those situations. Just for the fact that I know he's going to break a tackle. I know he's always going to fall forward. I rarely see him get knocked backwards.
Yeah,
that was my main issue with with us and Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson is a special talent, but I'm like, using him similar to how the Lions use their 2 running backs. Montgomery was the hammer, and then they would go to the kid that they drafted out of Alabama.
Gibbs.
Gibbs was just like the kind of like he played the Tony Pollard to the Zeke Elliott. That's the thunder and the lightning. You don't need
or the Jonathan Stewart to the D'Angelo Williams.
There you go. Yeah, but you got to know how to use them type.
You got to know how to use them. Yeah.
Like we didn't know how to use Arthur Smith really didn't know how to use Bijan Robinson. So I feel like this year teams are really going to get a taste of what he can really, really do because now he's in this Rams offense. And you guys remember with Todd Gurley what he was able to do with the Rams because they knew how to use him. He was one of them guys that was an offensive player of the year. And I said, I see the same thing happening for Bijan Robinson with this motion offense, a whole bunch of motion. You're not going to be able to key in on, like last year, teams just literally keyed in on they're going to get a ball to Bijan Robinson. So we got to stop that.
Right.
But this year, you can't really do that with us getting Rondale Moore with the speed he has, Darnell Mooney on the outside. And then
man, that pickup, I ain't gonna lie, that pickup pissed me off, man. I ain't gonna lie. That pickup pissed me off, man. I literally threw my phone in my car because I was like, yo, how they got Mooney, man? Dang.
Yeah, man. So this team is about to, man, we loaded this year. And that's why I tell people, like, they, just like I told you guys are building that offensive line, the Falcons have done everything they can to make sure, even though we know Kirk Cousins is what he is, they're going to make sure that he succeeds because they've even given him more weapons than we had last year. So I keep telling people, don't worry about Kirk Cousins. I'm not worried about Kirk Cousins at all. My main issue is, like you were saying, just build the defense because my issue with our defense right now is the depth. Last year we had it. So when you said the defense is shaky, I thought you were referring to like going into this season. I didn't know if you were talking about last year.
Oh yeah, I was talking about last year because I looked at it, like I said, there was a couple games, and even you vouched for it, that game against Arizona. It came down to a sec that didn't happen. And there was some games where it did come down to that. Now, when I look at the totality of a game, I'm like, okay, a 3-score loss, like. The offense was clicking in some kind of way for it to be 23 points, and the other team got 26, and you guys were only down by 3 points. Like, what happened?
When I go look back at last year's team, it was really like the defense really carried us. Like, if you look at a lot of our games, you had one game, Bates with a pick 6. So looking at the scoreboard, you would think like, okay, the offense really, but they put us on a lot of short fields because Jesse Bates was a monster last year.
Man, don't talk about that dude. I can't stand him, man.
That dude was a monster, man. So they did a good job on the defensive side of the ball. Where we struggled is, and that's what Mike was kind of alluding to. I always said that there's 3 to 4 plays in the game that'll either change the game.
Yeah.
It's the momentum. And last year, those plays that we needed to make at the end of games, like a sack to finish the game, or coverage to stop somebody. Those are what cost us a lot of the games last year. Those one possession games that we should have won was that nobody stepped up. And that's why I said this year, I don't care come hell or high water. We got to get an edge rusher, man. One of these top guys, because the Falcons are known to, okay, well, we're going to go best player available. Oh, Rome Odunze is still on the board, but it's like, do we really need that? You know what I'm saying? We need a pass rusher because we struggle to find that next guy, that like a Johnny Abraham, a guy that can consistently get pressure, even without you having to scheme up pressure. Just a guy that's going to always be in that backfield, like a great.
I'm gonna tell you a guy who I hope Carolina gets, and you know, when I look on PFF and I do the mock drafts, he's around like the 4th round, never really, maybe 5th round. Muhammad Kamara, bro. Like,
Okay. I'm about to
bro,
check him out.
man, check him out. Check out Muhammad Kamara. And I actually want the Panthers to draft a running back, man. You know, Cody Schrader's cool. All them guys is cool, man. But this dude, Rasheen Ali from the Herd, from whatchamacallit up there, man. Bro, listen, golly, bro. This dude is he's almost like a mixture of like a Jay Stu and like a Jahmyr Gibbs in a sense.
Okay.
Because he's elusive, but he'll take, like, you know, Jay Stu, he'll take a hit and keep going.
Yeah.
But Jay Stu wasn't the most athletic, like juking. This dude got the power and the juking, man, all in the same frame, bro.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna have to check them out then. But it's a lot of guys in the draft. Like, and I keep saying this: you can find gems at running back, wide receiver, tight end, anywhere in the draft. To me, it's hard to find those guys that are consistent in the trenches. When you're looking at offensive line, defensive line, I tell them it's a reason why. If you think about the premier pass rushers, and I said it earlier in this show, those guys are 1st-round picks. I can name one guy outside of Max Crosby for the Raiders, who was like a 3rd, or I think he was picked between the 3rd and 5th round. Outside of him, it ain't really no guys you can name that's like a premier pass rusher that didn't get drafted in the 1st round. Those guys are usually 1st-rounders.
Yeah.
Like you said, they jump off the screen.
Well, you know, the draft is so loaded this year, man. A lot of good players are going to slide to the, you know, 2nd and 3rd round, man. So, you know, for the Panthers picking at 33, I don't know what's going on with you guys. Are y'all going to lose your 1st round pick?
No, it's not sounding like it. They was trying to say that, you know, we tampered with Cousins, but from what I'm hearing, I don't think that we're going to lose a pick. I think it might be like a fine if they right now they're investigating it, but I don't see it happening. I really don't see it happening.
Okay. Well, what you say?
I said I think it was just a rumor. Yeah, I don't see it happening.
Okay. Well, with the Panthers having 2 2nd-round picks, the 33rd and the 39th, you know, I think some players are going to slide down, because I want to say maybe about 6 quarterbacks are going to go in the 1st round, man.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. I think that the quarterback's going to push a lot of good players down the board, and that's why I think Falcons, because we found our quarterback now. If somebody really wants that 8th pick, like say Minnesota really wants JJ McCarthy, or they want one of the quarterbacks that's there still, then I feel like the Falcons can trade back. I just say what I'm not willing to do is trade back and then be like, okay, well, we're gonna take whatever edge rusher is left over. Like, no, I want us to get the guy that we want. So whoever they have the highest graded edge rusher in this class, I want the Falcons to come away with the best, who their best is. Not just, okay, we're gonna move down so we can gain more assets. Because to me, that works, but you got to still know how to draft. And that's what bothers me about teams that always say, well, we'll just trade back. Well, do you know how to draft good talent
in the later rounds? Yeah,
right, exactly. Because if you don't have an eye for talent, you having more picks don't mean nothing. You just gonna pick more bad players. Like,
more trash on the team. That's all.
You know how to draft. Trust me, I say this every year. Teams don't know how to draft, man. A lot of these teams don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to draft, and that's my problem with the best player available, you know, situation. It's like that's fine and dandy to a certain extent, you know what I'm saying? But at some point, like now for our team, I keep saying we have to win now. Like with this Kirk Cousins, we have to win now, because you're not going to be able to pay Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. Once those guys' contract, like they rookie deals are over, we're going to have to start making tough choices of like, okay, who's going to be Tyreek Hill and get traded?
Is Kyle Pitts in his 3rd year or 4th year?
No, this is his contract year. This is he's going into his 4th. I think it's his 4th year. This is his 4th year. Next year, we got to decide either
we'll pick up his 5th year option,
tag him, pay him, trade him. It's gonna have to be a decision made.
And what's your cap space for next year? You know,
I don't know it yet, but right now they're saying we're sitting on there like $4 million right now. That's why I was like, man, we got to do some restructures. Somebody got to get restructured.
Atlanta Falcons 2024 draft. Cap space. Let me see if they got something updated for y'all. No, I'm sorry, 2025. I'm sorry. Let me see. They say right now, you guys, if you're worried about the Falcons cap space with Kirk Cousins as of now, per over the cap, 2025, 37 million.
Could you try again?
And it says 119 mil in 2026. So you guys got right now 37 mil in cap. But 2026, you got 119 in 2026. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, but we still got some tough decisions to make, man. We still got AJ Terrell that's going. Yeah. He's in his 4th year, so he's on playing on the technically he picked up his 5th year option, but it's still decisions that got to be made. So it's good to be talented, but I tell people you want to win before the talent needs to be paid. That's the best way to do it. If you can draft well and then win a Super Bowl while all of those guys are on the rookie deal, I always point to the Seattle Seahawks with the Legion of Boom. They had Cam Chancellor, they had Sherman, all those guys were on rookie deals, Earl Thomas, and then they won and then went to back-to-back Super Bowls before they had to pay those guys. It was worth it. You know what I'm saying? Because eventually what they had to do, they had to split them up.
Yeah. You want to get the value out of a player before you have to go ahead and sign a new contract. That's why I keep telling everybody right now in Carolina, they're like, oh, why are we giving up these 1-year deals to these players? And I'm like, yo, why would you extend a player? First of all, you don't know how he's going to work out. You know, and I look at it business wise. If I'm going to go get a new car or a used car, if I have the opportunity to lease it without having any type of strings attached to it, if I don't like it after year 1, I just let it go. I let it go. And if they're good, then I give them a multi-year contract, you know, because I got money next year. Like, we got paper next year. Like, stop playing. That's why I keep telling these Carolina Panthers fans, like, they're trying to get back, and it could be the same thing for you guys with the Falcons. They're trying to get back to the 2015 year. That year is dead. It's gone.
Campbell is a freak of nature, man.
I'm a
fan, so I actually am a Cam Newton fan, and Cam was just a different. Like when he said he was Superman, he was different. That dude was just different. When you to go 15-1, you know, he was a special talent, and I don't think that y'all gonna ever see that again. That was just like a freak of nature type situation where he was just taking over games. And both him and Luke Kuechly was 1 of 1. Like those guys are not. You're not gonna find that again. Like those type of players. I hate comparing players to those type of players because those are not. That's like us saying we need the next Michael Vick. Michael Vick is 1 of 1. He's not. It's not a Michael Vick out there. There's guys that play similar to his game, but they not him. You know what I'm saying?
They're not him. Yeah, fact. Vic was special, man. Vic was special. That's why my little brother. We're from Miami, Florida, but my little brother was a Atlanta Falcons fan from birth almost.
Man. A Falcons fan today is Mike Vick, man. But like I said, man, I'm gonna get ready to wrap the show up. But I appreciate you joining.
Yeah, man.
We're gonna definitely have to get you back on the show, and then we also gonna have to do a round table as well, and then we'll get you on a heavy hitter show. That's me, Mad Mike, and K-Style. So Mad Mike was in here with us. They all got their own channels, but we also link up and we got a channel together called the Heavy Hitter. So man, definitely, man, we're gonna have you on.
Yeah, well, real quick before I go, man, I did talk to a New Orleans Saints podcaster, pretty well known, and I'm trying to find a non-conceited Buccaneers podcaster because it seemed like everyone who I talked to was like, nah, I don't got time to do it, but you got plenty of time in the offseason. It is what it is. But yeah, I'm working on a roundtable like that so I can get you, a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan and a New Orleans Saints fan. We all can sit down and kind of chop it up, you know, real NFC South type, you know, movement. So yeah, man, but we'll talk, man. Thank you for having me on the show, Joe. I appreciate you, man.
Hey, man, you're welcome anytime. Like I said, I didn't came into your show so many times. You like, bro, hit the link. Sometimes I can't even hit the link. I'm like, I'm busy. I'm just popping in. Nobody knows because I check out, you know, a lot of different. Because I want to hear from y'all perspective. Like, I got my own perspective on y'all teams, but y'all cover the team daily. Like I cover the Falcons, so I don't know all of the ins and outs. You know what I'm saying? I might give you a breakdown. Like you had asked me about one of the players y'all signed from our team, but outside of that, I'm just on the casual fan looking in on you guys. So I like to listen to you guys kind of go into enemy territory and like, okay, let me hear what they're talking about. And
tell Red Swarm stop being on that light skinned boy stuff, man. That's my boy, Red Swarm, my boy, man.
Yeah, man. Most definitely. He usually pull up in here. I don't know if he's in here right now, but yeah, he always be pulling up in here as well. Red Swarm is one of my guys, man. But like I said, man, the blessings, man. I appreciate you joining me, man. We definitely gonna have to link up again. But I'm gonna go ahead and close out the show. But if you guys haven't hit that subscribe button for my boy Demetrius, go over to the PPP Panthers Prime Podcast. Go hit that like and subscribe button for him as well. Really talented content creator. And we're going to have a lot more coming for you guys. So you guys stay tuned. Of course, hit the notification bell so you know when I went live. As you heard them, we're going to do an NFC South roundtable. And of course, the heavy hitters, we're going to keep pushing out content as well. We have a live show coming up as well. And then also go over to each and every AFN, all of the platforms. Y'all definitely hit that like and subscribe button as well. But as always, Falcons Nation, rise up, be blessed. Have a blessed week. Peace.